Cool. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for coming. Mike, Michael, I guess. Thank you. Susan,
Thank you for having us.
thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome.
Taylor, thank you for supporting Mike. Thank you for coming with him and supporting me too. That's awesome. James, Pops, thank you very much for being here. All right, so I am really passionate about longevity. I, however, am not a doctor. Okay, so any of this stuff that comes out of my mouth tonight cannot be taken as medical advice.
Can't see you later.
Not legal advice. I'm also not a dietitian. Okay, a lot of this stuff I have learned over the last 2 years is relatively new, and there's not always going to be a scientific study on it. Okay, some of the stuff I've learned just with my own body, just experimenting with taking foods out, experimenting with meal timing, reading from books by doctors, reading from books by physical therapists, dietitians, the like. I also love YouTube, and I've gotten some of my information from doctors on there. All right. Okay, so when I surveyed you guys, Taylor, you didn't take a survey, Dad, you didn't take a survey, but Michael took a survey, and Susan took a survey. All right, Susan, you were interested in everything, at least a little bit.
Room for improvement.
Yeah.
Didn't leave any blanks.
Yes.
No. Let's see. I
See
think
you
the
next
first,
week.
The first was cognitive, and then, yeah, I remember. I did.
Yeah.
Some less than others. Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's go ahead and take it as a group, and let's see sort of where we stand as all four of us.
Okay.
All right, everybody who is interested in cognitive function, raise your hand.
Are you gonna ask
Cool.
anybody?
On where on the
who know
scale?
what cognitive function is?
Cognitive function is like response time of your brain.
Yes.
Do you feel sharp?
I got that immediately.
Yeah.
Well, you're in trouble if you're struggling now. At 27. Whoa.
Yeah. Can you repeat that?
Okay, heart health, blood circulation. Raise your hand if you're interested in that.
Well,
All right, we got 2.
more for my husband than for me.
Actually, I'm gonna rate this one a 4. Oh wait,
Yeah, you didn't rank
I
it.
am in the mode that is making the survey, not
Oh.
taking the survey.
Oh, okay.
Little wheel up there, I think.
TLC, Hartwell.com. Sign
And if you've forgotten your email, the cognitive will help on that. Will this help me not have a whole spreadsheet with 500 passwords on it?
It's like my parents, they said they just write it on the outside of a folder and then they just kind of hide the folder.
Yeah.
I was like, why don't you put it in the folder?
Well.
They write on the folder, on the outside of the folder.
All
Does
right,
that
so
last long?
4 people were interested in cognitive function, 2 people interested in heart health, osteoporosis. All right, we got Taylor 1. Cool. All right, inflammation. All right, we got 4. All right, fabulous.
And I'm assuming that's the same inflammation I've been reading about in my book.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's what
Probably.
it is.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And it starts with food.
Yes. All right. Weight management.
Ding, 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 ding.
All right, cool. 3. 3, fabulous. All right, metabolism. All right, we got 2. 2.5.
Depends on what you're
All
gonna
right,
make me eat.
3. All right, and nutrition. All right, everybody. Cool. All right, thank you for obliging me on that. All right. got 3 responses now.
Yeah, there you go.
Individual. Alright, so. Wait, wasn't cognitive function 4? Okay. Alright, I did that wrong. Alright. So we're gonna talk about osteoporosis. Just kidding. Just kidding. Alright, so weight management, inflammation, and my personal favorite is cognitive function. That's what actually got me into this in the beginning, in the very beginning. So I'm actually going to lead with that. All right, so I'm passionate about that because I've had a grandfather with Alzheimer's who died at like age 86. I had a grandmother who died with dementia. Both of them were, man, it was really hard to take care of the 2 of them. And I've also had my own trouble with cognitive function. ADD growing up is what I was diagnosed with. I was never medicated on it or for it. I didn't figure out what really was causing or contributing to my ADD until 2 years ago. And actually, no, 3 years ago now. So January of 2017, I did my first elimination diet.
Wow.
And I was super religious about it. And I didn't even know what I was going for other than optimal health. It wasn't longevity. I had never heard that word before in my life.
Your age, that's not surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was 29 at the time. Okay, I'd been 29 or 30 for 6 months. And the new year started, and I wanted to break my 30-day elimination diet on the Super Bowl. I just wanted to go crazy and throw all those things right back in, and that's exactly what I did. So I eliminated a number of things. I eliminated sugar, alcohol. I eliminated all kinds of grains, even pseudo grains like quinoa. I eliminated those. I eliminated any like non-organic grass-fed animals. I only ate specifically like wild caught fish and like grass-fed, grass-finished steak and pork and stuff. I ate no soy whatsoever. And I'll tell you why these things later. And I also took out legumes. I really didn't eat legumes in the first place, but baked beans, like at Mexican restaurants.
Yeah, refried beans or anything, yeah.
Yeah, I eliminated those. Oh, peanut butter. Peanut butter, man, that's like my favorite. Like after I've had a couple of drinks and I don't want to make anything, I just go in there with some peanut butter and a spoon.
Ritz crackers and
Yeah.
Yeah, and I realized that I had digestive problems.
You realized when you went off everything, or when?
Exactly.
Oh,
When
okay.
I did that for 2 weeks straight, I had no constipation. I know this isn't dinner talk, but we're all adults here, right? I learned that I had been, and dairy. Dairy is another thing that I totally eliminated. That, wow, I poop like a normal person. It took me like no time, in and out. I'm like super regular. First thing in the morning, I get the coffee, and it happened. You know, it's amazing. And then I read this book. It's called Brain Maker by this doctor who his dad had Alzheimer's disease, and he's a neurosurgeon. So his dad was also a neurosurgeon, And so he was really, really passionate, obviously, about not getting it himself because he knew that he had the genes. And so that was the second thing that I did, was read this book. And with the digestive problems that I no longer had when I did this elimination diet, then I discovered that, oh my gosh, my gut contributes to my brain. And it's like, if this is messed up, then this is going to be messed up. So if we're going to concentrate on one thing, should it be this or should it be this? So this is why I'm so passionate about cognitive function, but also nutrition.
So did
Alright.
you, do you care if we interrupt you? Was that mess you up or you? want
I
me to wait?
actually don't.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, did you realize within a short period of time, other than the pooping, did you realize any benefits to like what your ADD, you know, or any of that by changing what you were eating or eliminating things? Or was that a longer term thing to discover?
That was a longer term thing
Okay.
to discover. Yes,
Okay,
great question there. It did not happen. I didn't realize how sharp I was.
yeah,
Maybe other people knew better than me.
yeah.
But yeah, it's a great question. All right. Yes.
This morning on, Fox and Friends, they had Dr. Oz on there. Did you see that?
I've heard about that, yeah.
Well, Dr. Oz has become a big believer in elimination diet,
All right.
and he's promoting it. And some of the stuff you told me about eating within an 8-hour period, and, he says the breakfast is not the best meal of the day, that you shouldn't eat for at least 3 hours after you wake up in the morning. And, then you should eat, you know, within this given period of time, and not eat anything, I forgot what he said, after 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock at night, until you wake up. And then he says, if you get used to that, you're not hungry. Your mind takes over, you're not hungry. And, so
Yes.
he's,
Excellent segue there. All right. When we're hungry, what happens?
We binge eat.
We binge eat.
Yeah, or eat bad things.
What do you hear anything ever? When you're hungry?
My stomach makes so much noise.
Your stomach growls? Okay, is anybody else's stomach growl?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
Stomach growls. All right, so all of us are stomach growls.
Except for that, I found out I wasn't really hungry. It was by friends, so that other things, but
You remember?
yeah. Oh no, I mean this is my own personal experience.
When
I think
the
it's mostly
poop
your
factory goes to work.
Yeah. All right, so when
Start clocking in.
when your stomach growls, it's not actually your stomach.
Yeah.
It's actually your small intestine, and it's called the migrating motor complex. And it happens after about 5 hours without eating. Then this little maid comes through in a hurricane and cleans you out. All right, that needs to happen every day. All right, so
I'm on that schedule. I'm good with this.
if you feed yourself right when that starts up, it's gonna stop it because there's no use in it doing that. So the little maid just goes back in the kitchen, you know, no longer clean, or back downstairs, or back out of the barn, or back home, wherever. All right. So that actually needs to occur. That's a very regular thing. Let that happen every day, and it doesn't take, or you'll feel it for a few minutes, but I think it takes like 3 hours for that to finish.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, Dad, that was an intermittent fasting protocol. All right. You're talking about Dr. Oz. All right. Has anybody else heard of intermittent fasting? All right.
Fasting, but I don't know about intermittent.
Okay. Does the word fasting make anybody uncomfortable? Does it scare anybody? Does that sound like craziness?
No, it just sounds like hard work.
Okay.
Sounds
Okay.
like being hungry.
It sounds like
Being
denial,
hungry?
denying
Yeah.
yourself the things that you love.
Okay. Is there anything wrong with that?
Oh,
I'm just kidding. You don't have to answer that. You don't have to answer. That's rhetorical.
okay.
I'm just messing with you
All right,
because
mess
I
with
know
me.
you.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So, let's get back to the cognitive function thing. All right. So there are these proteins. Your brain, when it is inflamed, it has a protective function, a protective mechanism, where it builds structures to protect the nerves, and just to make sure that we keep all of the normal bodily functions active. We can still operate the heart. Maybe not well, but we can still get the signaling out. Okay, and these protein structures, I want you to imagine, I'm going to give you a little visual. If you want, you can close your eyes. Imagine a football player. All right, he's got no pads on, and he starts putting pads on, and he puts on his full uniform, and he is as good a football player as he could possibly be in that moment, with the standard issue pads. And so this is the brain normally. Well, when the brain has to protect itself, this is like that football player putting on extra pads, extra weight. He can no longer turn. He can't run as fast. He can't react as fast. He can't see a ball if it's being thrown at him because he's got two helmets on or whatever, a visor, or he's got this neck roll, that linebackers wear that protect the neck. He's got to go like this to be able to see anything up there, right? And so that's the brain's mechanism. That's like the brain protecting itself, adding on those pads, okay? Well, that is Alzheimer's. That's what Alzheimer's is the overgrowth of those proteins. Those proteins are called amyloid beta, right? And if you don't know, Alzheimer's disease is a form of dementia, all right? I am very passionate about those two subjects, and I want to make sure that I avoid that. And anybody here in Hartwell, I want to educate them on that. Right? So that comes from when your brain is bombarded with inflammation. All right? Now I have to explain inflammation, otherwise this doesn't really make sense. Who is clear on what inflammation is?
I've read that whole chapter in that book twice, and I'm still confused sometimes. So,
Okay?
yeah.
Okay?
So you better dumb it down for me.
All right. So let's say that all of us are firefighters. What are you?
I'm the
The
bucket.
fire.
I'm the bucket brigade.
Yeah. You're a firefighter. You fail. What are you?
Firefighter.
What are you? What are you?
Firefighter.
You're the fire chief.
Dang.
Get out of here.
I'm gonna move to that end
I
of the
can take
road.
responsibility.
All right. All right. So. All right. So we're all firefighters, and we have a lot of duties to do. We don't just fight fires. We've got to feed ourselves. We've got to rest. We've got to clean the fire station. We have to teach the school kids. We have to make visits to schools. We gotta be on call. We have to respond to accidents. We have to train out back of the firehouse. We have to actually set fire to stuff. All right. So if we are on call, or we're on duty, right? And we're on duty for a 24-hour shift, and we have all these duties to do, but we get called out every like couple hours. Actually, let me back up just a second. Whenever you eat something, there is an inflammatory response. All right?
No matter what it is.
No matter what it is. It may be inflammatory, pro-inflammatory rather, or anti-inflammatory. Pro-inflammatory may sound good, but it's actually bad. Anti-inflammatory is actually good.
Right.
All right? Okay. All right, so if we have a pro-inflammatory meal every 2 hours, what's going to happen to us as firefighters?
You're gonna be obese
and
and lethargic.
And let's say that one of those meals, inflammatory meals, is a fire, and we got to go put it out. Okay, if that happens every 2 hours, what's going to happen to our morale? It's going to be depleted. Like, we are burning the candle at both ends. We're going to be tired. All the other duties that we have, are we going to do those very well?
No.
Shoot, no, I'm not doing that. Shoot, I gotta sleep. I gotta eat. I'm gonna eat crappy food. So we're gonna just swing by.
Taco Bell.
I almost said Chick-fil-A because you were sitting there, but no, we're gonna swing by McDonald's.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah, let's get some
they're
good
fast and they're consistent.
They are not fast. Not the drive-through, go ahead, sorry.
No. Maybe
Political
not
statement.
this one.
No.
All right. Okay, so is everybody tracking with me? All right. So we don't want to have pro-inflammatory meals every 2 hours. We want to space those out like a lot. We want to give our firefighters a rest. Okay. So these elimination foods that I eliminated from my diet, those were pro-inflammatory foods. All right. They're grown. A lot of them are grown with pro-inflammatory chemicals that like just totally set an atomic bomb off inside of us. All right. All right. I guess it's time for me to talk about glyphosate. Anybody ever heard of glyphosate?
Yep,
I'm not.
Okay.
it's in Roundup.
Yep. I was just about to ask, what's the commercial name for glyphosate? And it's Roundup. All right. Anybody ever heard of a GMO? Genetically modified organism. All right. What is the significance of a genetically modified organism if you are a farmer?
You produce more, you make more money.
Okay?
You have less disease in your crops.
The yield.
Yeah.
Bottom line is the yield of your field, your business, is going to be higher if you can use GMOs,
Right.
because you can use this chemical called glyphosate, Roundup. You can douse your farm with this stuff and it will not kill that plant. That plant has been genetically modified to withstand it or be resistant to it. All right, well, guess what glyphosate does? The residue stays on the plant, it gets in the plant, it gets in the soil. The soil,
Runoff.
it has a half-life of 32 years.
Wow.
This glyphosate, it's illegal in Europe, so those Europeans, they don't really have to deal with this unless they import it from here, which they'd be crazy to do that. We at least in the United States, we have so many people to feed that it kind of makes sense to use that stuff. I'm not saying that it's good, I'm not saying that it's right, it's just that we've got so many freaking people to feed. It's sort of a little unrealistic to be able to produce that kind of stuff, or that amount of product. Okay, so when that glyphosate is inside of you. It strips your gut lining. All right, that gut lining gets stripped. Am I losing anybody? Do we need to take a break?
No, I'm right with you.
Do you mean
Cool.
the bacteria in your gut? It strips that, or you're talking about physically breaking down your gut?
All right, imagine a trash can. All right, that is your body. Imagine a can liner inside of it. All right, so if a perfectly normal can liner has no holes in it, all right, and then you pour this chemical in there and it starts eating away at that lining,
Okay.
and it is now no longer just in the gut, in the can liner, it is now in the can too, which is your body.
Right.
And when it's in your body, it goes to your brain. For this example and this sort of conversation, this is cognitive function still.
Okay.
All right, it goes to your brain, and then your brain becomes inflamed. And then what does your brain do when it becomes inflamed?
Starts to build those layers to protect.
Boom.
Oh, star.
Exactly.
Man, you didn't even write none of that down.
Yeah.
Quick old woman here.